Hi everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Tech Bytes for MASSP. My name is Ryan Casey, and today I want to go back to an old familiar well. I want to talk about another Google product. This one is not new, but unfortunately I think it's one that people really aren't taking advantage of, and I'm talking about Google Drive. So many of you have probably seen a Google Doc. Maybe you've even shared one out before, but you aren't taking advantage of all of the really simple features to get yourself caught up to speed and why you should be using it to stay organized and to collect and share files. So although this will kind of be a 101 lesson for those of you who haven't jumped into Google Drive yet, I will throw a couple of extra little advanced features in on this Tech Byte video as well. So let's spend the next few minutes together and let's get started. Okay, for the Google Drive newbies, here is basically, in a nutshell, how things are organized. So you have all of your files and folders all sitting in this main space right here. And you can look at this two different ways depending on your personality type or how you want to interact with your files and folders. I prefer the list view, where it lists them up and down like that, all of my folders and files. If you are more of a icon thumbnail person, they have what's called grid view right over here in the upper right corner. And that'll organize them so you can actually see a picture of what it is that you're looking at. So sometimes that's helpful if you're not quite sure. You can actually see the image. Again, I don't know why. It's my left brain wants everything in a nice compact list. So I'm going to list it this way. Over on the left-hand side, you can actually organize your files and folders into different buckets, and we'll talk about how to organize folders in just a minute, but you have My Drive. So these are all of the items that you own, okay? Items that most likely you created or stored yourself. Again, this is the same list that you see up and down here, basically. You also have shared drives, which is more of a organizational drive, if you will. We'll talk about that at the very end. And you have shared drive, which are going to be items that other people have shared with you that you do not own, but you have access to. And then, of course, you have recent items that maybe you want to mark important that are starred, and trash. So by default, anything that you create in here will go to just your general old My Drive section. So if you don't have it placed in a folder, it'll just be placed as a kind of a loose leaf item, if you will, on this area. At any time, if you want to change how you're viewing these items, you can organize these alphabetically if you want, by who the owner is. So right now it's going in descending order versus ascending if I flip it around that way. I can organize these based on when it was last modified by me versus anyone, or even last opened by me if I want to rearrange them that way. So you do have some different ways, like the most recent items can always stay at the top. If you'd rather it be alphabetical, you can do it that way too. So we're going to dive in here next and actually talk about different ways to organize these better, as well as how to use the search feature and some additional tools in regarding sharing and permissions and allowing people access to these files and folders. So beyond just sorting your files and folders by name or by owner or when it was last opened. Another way you can do this is by using a numbering system where you actually put a number in front of each folder. Sometimes that makes it a little easier. You can also just think about how you're naming them, and what's a somewhat new feature within the last year or so is actually color coding your folders. So for example, I can take a folder, let's take this McCall one. So every year I try and do presentations at McCall. I'm going to right-click this, and I can organize this folder by moving it to a new location. I can rename this. Remember, I can star this item, move it to a starred container where all my most important items would be. And then I can also change the color, which is a nice feature to have. So if you want to color code things related to your staff or something related to your students or different items, that just helps you visually organize them even more. So I'm going to make this one bright green, and now the folder changes. You can also drag and drop. You can rearrange and organize files and folders by clicking on it and dragging it into a new folder. It's probably easier for me to do with a single item sometimes, and I can click and drag it this way, or I can expand it on the side and click and drag it one of those ways as too. So being able to add color, think about your names, where you're moving it to, and then there's even the ability you can add a little emojicon. If you Google online emoji or something like that, there's a bunch of sites that are online that will allow you to copy and paste little emojicons like that, and you can actually add those in here as well if you want an icon to go with it, which is kind of a nice little feature as well. So another really cool feature of Google Drive is the ability to use the search tool to find your files and folders really quick. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think it's actually faster to use the search bar than it is to organize your files and folders. You might be the most organized person with your naming and numbering and color coding, but it'll get to a point that it'll probably be so complex if you have a ton of files and folders, it's faster to use the search tool. So you can just type in obviously a keyword, it'll try and do its best to find that item, but if you take like an extra 5 seconds and you hit the little drop down arrow, the search options, this will make your search work way faster and more efficient because you can actually choose the type of file that you want to look for. So I know I'm looking for something on my mind that tracks the analytics of our websites, and I know it's a spreadsheet. I know that I am the owner. I can look in the trash if it's starred. I can add additional keywords to the name, or if it has the words found inside the document, which is pretty cool. So think of a Google Doc, which has paragraphs and a lot of content. You can search for keywords there. I think it's labeled Google for Google Analytics. And then I have some who it's shared with. I can add some additional things. So I can hit search now. Boom, it only gives me one result instead of what would have been probably maybe 5, 10, or more. And now I can find that document faster. So again, if you take just a couple extra seconds and you hit that drop down arrow and you look for some advanced search options, that makes it way faster to find things, especially if you can't remember where you put it, or if you were the owner, or who shared it with you. Try using the search tool. So now let's go ahead and talk about sharing and permissions. And again, you might have shared a document before. It's not too hard to figure out, but I do want to talk about some additional features that you may or may not be aware of. So for example, let's say if I want to go into this podcast folder and share a file. Okay, I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to share. A couple of things to be mindful about is you have to type in, the email address of who do you want to share with. You have different access you can give that person. So there's viewer, so they can look at everything. They can't touch it or manipulate it. You can let them comment, so they can make suggestions by adding little comments, maybe just give you some feedback, but without manipulating it. Or editor, so they can actually go in, add, make changes, tweaks, whatnot. You can also give temporary access as well. And you can actually set this to expire after so many days and whatnot. So it's kind of a neat feature to have. So if you are on a revision of maybe a plan or a program or a document, and you want to have somebody have access, but they don't want to have access forever, you can actually set that to expire. So I think that's a feature not many people use and maybe don't even realize. A couple of other things that you can do as well with the document. Let's say you want to have somebody look at your document, but you want to let them make a copy. Okay? So what you can actually do is go down here and choose I want everybody who has the link to be able to see this. So anyone with this link can see this file, and I'm going to copy that link. The trick is that when you go to email this out or send it out, if you get rid of all this stuff at the end that says /edit USP sharing, if you delete that and just type in the word copy, this will force them to make a copy of the document before they get in. Sometimes they'll get confused, they're not sure where to go. This will just skip a step for people looking at this file. So if you send them this file, you copy and paste that, you send it to them, if they go to the file now, it'll take them to a screen that says, would you like a copy of this document? They click make copy, and boom, they automatically have their own that they can manipulate or mess with. So this is a really cool feature to use If you just remember to erase that last little snippet and make sure it ends in /copy so other people can get a copy of your document as well. So just a couple other things to show you real quick. Earlier I mentioned how a lot of files are based on ownership. So you have My Drive, and then there's a Shared With Me drive of people who have shared items with you. I mentioned this shared drive. And this is what you would want to use if your organization wants to have all of the files and folders that maybe you have collected have equal access to everybody, meaning you don't have to share it with an individual every single time. If a file makes it in there, everybody automatically has access to it. And most importantly, if somebody leaves your organization, even if they created the file and put it in there, it stays. So right now, if a colleague were to share a lesson plan with you or a presentation with you, and they were to leave your organization, the file would get deleted. You wouldn't have access to it anymore. When you use shared drives, they all stay in there, and there is no true owner of the document. The other thing that you can do with Google Drive, don't forget as well, is you actually have the ability to take email attachments and take them right from your email attachment and hit Add to Drive. And so that's another good feature. Right from there, you can add it, then you can organize it in your drive and keep everything together that way. So hopefully if you haven't been using Google Drive, you start using it a little more. Even if you're not a Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides person, it's still a great place just to store all of your files. It can store any file type, images, if you want to back up your camera. Microsoft Office files can get stored on there. In fact, Microsoft Office files can actually be edited still. So you can open up a Word document, an Excel document, a PowerPoint, and you can still edit and make changes to those documents and share those with others as well. So it's a great storage system. It saves up hard drive space on your computer, and you can access it anywhere you have internet. So many times I've needed a file and I was able to pull it up right from my phone. You really don't need a little flash drive with you if you're going from place to place. You log in with Google, you have access to it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember, you can find other Tech Bytes, including this one, at MASSP.com and the MASSP YouTube channel. Please be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.